live, great. If I'm not, I'm not sure. But thanks, guys. I need a producer. Who wants to move to Idaho and be my producer? That would be great. I would accept the help. But I think I'm live, and I'm so happy to be here with you, with everyone, and to be bringing you our next speakers for today. So before I introduce exactly who is speaking, actually, you should know if you've gone to the Homeopathy Choice website, you should know. But I am so excited because Todd Rowe is an awesome friend of ours, and I just love him. But before I can do that, I need to give you guys the rundown of how we're doing on our goal, how we're doing on our progress. So I'm Paula Brown. If you're new, President of Americans for Homeopathy Choice Action. I have several of these t-shirts. I have not been wearing the same one all week, but I wanted to come dressed in uniform. And today we're going to be talking to Todd Rowe, but let me give you an update on our goal. Our goal is to get to 45,000. I would love it if you guys could please step up and support us right now. We're just inching up almost to the halfway point, which would be really exciting because today is hump day. So I'd love it if you guys could support us and donate to support our mission. We have some exciting things that are going on behind the scenes that I can't quite share about, but I hope to share about with the whole world very soon. So a lot of really great progress. A special thanks to our generous sponsors. Everybody here has donated to us and supported us. We are so thankful for everything each of these organizations and these individuals are doing. They are wonderful, a wonderful group of people. So thank you so much. And then today, our featured sponsor is the National Center for Homeopathy, and they've been around since 1974. They provide free, reliable resources to help people stay well and advance the practice of homeopathy. They like to educate consumers, and they connect practitioners, and they're really kind of the home that, all of us in the homeopathy world love to spend time together. So thank you so much. Consider becoming a member on their website at homeopathycenter.org. And then, guys, there's a really cool survey that you guys can do to help out the homeopathy world right now. It's if you just go to tinyurl.com/homeo poll, they are doing a survey for physicians and practitioners specifically, and they are wanting people to kind of give input on their work in homeopathy. So if you're a consumer, this is not for you, but share it with your practitioners and your friends because they could use a little love. And then also, I want to tell you guys, we have a coupon code for you guys to buy anything in our shop right now. You can get 10% off if you use coupon code ROOTED2025. We have a lot of t-shirts, stuff like the stuff I'm wearing. And we also have some really cool products. Um, yeah, so you just go to homeopathychoice.org/store. And then everyone is entering a big giveaway. Thank you so much to Sue Myers of homeopathyformommies.com. She has this great book, Beyond Acute Care. It's her newer book, and I would love for you guys to win it. And so we will announce our winner at the end of today's episode for today. And also, yesterday I got to interview Miranda Castro, and she's also doing an awesome discount. She's doing 12% off because she loves the 12 cell salts. If you go to mirandacastro.com, the offer is valid through September 28th. Okay, so far we have spoken to Noel Peterson, to Miranda Castro, and now we're going to be talking to Todd Rowe. And let me tell you a little bit about my friend Todd. He is actually a licensed board certified psychiatrist. He's a homeopathic physician. He lives in Arizona, which Arizona loves homeopathy. And he's been practicing alternative medicine for 35 years. He graduated from Rush Medical School. He's actually the past president of the American College of Homeopathy. He's written several books and been involved in homeopathy for a long, long time, and really thankful for all that he does. And so without further ado, I'm going to bring him on. Todd, go ahead and unmute yourself and say hello. And then, Todd, don't let me forget, around the halfway point, I want to break and talk to Brad, who's sitting here waiting. And we're going to be talking to him about his work on our homeopathy action team. So I was a little flustered getting today ready, wasn't I?
You did great, Paula.
Thank
And
you. Got there in the
it's
end.
lovely to be here with you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So tell me a little bit about what you had on your heart to talk with us today, because we're talking about the mental and emotional side of homeopathy, which I think is one of the places where homeopathy thrives.
Hmm. Yeah, and I have found that um, of all the various types of physicians, there are more psychiatrists that are into homeopathy than any other specialty.
Really?
And I think it's reflected in that strong connection between how homeopathy can help with emotional and mental problems, um, and the limitations of conventional psychiatric medications. They certainly have their place, but there is so much that homeopathy has to offer for emotional and mental issues.
Yeah, it does. I remember once, Todd, reading an article about homeopathy. This is back in like the 90s when mainstream newspapers would often write about natural health, not alternative things, and at least in an unbiased way, and or in a supportive way, actually. And it was an article that came out on Veterans Day, I think. And he was talking about how homeopathy helped like a veteran who had specifically gone through like PTSD type symptoms. And he said that what's interesting is that like having something like PTSD, it's not necessarily a chemical problem. It's not that you were drugged or your hormones are off. Like it's nothing like that. You've experienced a trauma that is kind of lives in your energetic sphere. And it takes energetic medicine to fix that. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I think most of our audience knows that arnica is tremendously useful for trauma.
Hmm.
And there are many other kinds of trauma. There is emotional trauma, mental trauma, and even spiritual trauma.
Hmm.
And homeopathy has a beautiful role in bringing traumas to the surface that have been buried and helping an individual let them go when they've been stuck, even if it's been years and years and years later. I remember a case that I saw when I was really young where someone had become blind because of a head injury.
Hmm.
And they came to a seminar and were given Arnica montana at the seminar. And for the first time in 35 years, their blindness got better.
Really?
Were able to see, yes. And
Wow.
experience the same thing with other kinds of trauma. It doesn't matter how old it is, how long you've had it. Homeopathy has the capacity to reach deeply into the individual and let those things go sometimes.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, what I think is really interesting, and I think it's kind of cool that we're talking about this because this isn't the topic we're discussing today, isn't typically something that we discuss in homeopathy, but especially as we have parents that are aging and as life continues, this is something we really should talk about. So you kind of selected a very unique angle to take today. So let's kind of get into that.
Yeah. So um, I was reflecting on what have I loved most about my practice over the years. And the cases that I've loved the most have been at the end of life.
Hmm.
And so I thought it would be fun to talk about end of life care and homeopathy's role. And you're right that it's typically not talked about much in homeopathy, and yet homeopathy has so much rich to offer here.
Yeah, it does. And I feel like no one, I mean, everybody wants to live forever, And so because this conversation can be kind of uncomfortable, then we avoid it altogether. And really, it could be a wonderful support for everyone that's here or that is not here, that's going, because you want these transitions to be gentle. I struggle with transitions overall in my life. I don't like them. I have a son that graduated high school last year and he's moving on with life and I hate it. But I do think that this is one of the most important transitions we all will make sooner or later. And having homeopathy and keeping that in mind, I think would be a wonderful thing. So go ahead, let's jump into the your outline here and what you wanted to share.
So, to speaking to that, I think one of the keys that I have found is helping people let go of their attachments, in particular to this physical body as they pass on, and helping people with their fears, with their anxieties, with their pain, with their discomfort. And homeopathy has roles for all of those things. I think it also has an incredible role for helping the loved ones that
Mhm.
surround the person, and not just people, but animals often struggle when a loved owner, is passing on. And so there's opportunities to help all those individuals as part of a system. This time can be a time actually of healing
Mhm.
for the entire family. So often I've seen when someone asks me if I'm willing to work with them as they go through this transition, and I ask them, are there any things that are left undone in your life? And so often there are things that are still there, like old lingering guilt or festering anger towards a family member or whatever. And homeopathy can help those things to heal so that someone can pass on without hanging on to those old lingering emotions and thoughts and issues. And that's really lovely.
Which can really burden you, you know.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. I think that is really lovely that you can just have that peace. I mean, you know, I always feel like the best way to go is to go quickly and not to suffer and to struggle, to the very end. I think of our friend Jim Turner. He passed away a few years ago. He was our main, attorney at Homeopathy Choice, but he went quickly. And I was talking to a friend Peter, whom you both you and I know, and I was really upset of his passing, and he was just like, "Oh, Paula, you should be happy. This is how a saint goes, is quickly. But it's not like that for everyone, and it's for some people it's a labor to get to the end.
And some people cling to life and they're not ready to let go. And
Mm.
you can assist with that. There are certain remedies that help with that specifically. I
Mhm.
think there also are remedies that help with comfort.
Okay.
And so pain and nausea and um, shortness of breath and fear related to that all are common problems that people experience in this process. And there are homeopathic remedies that can assist with all of those.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about some specific remedies or just kind of more generally?
Whatever, I'm happy to talk about some specifics.
Okay, cool.
Um, First thing to say is that everyone dies or in their own way. Um, and one of the beauties of homeopathy is its individualization. And
Mm.
so there is a different remedy for everyone in their experience. And so ultimately, there's no one remedy for this phase of life. Any remedy can work. But that being said, there are some that are more common. One of the ones that is talked about the most, that's used a lot, is arsenicum album.
Yeah, that's the one that I know about too.
Yeah, and most people know about that. And it specifically is a remedy that really helps with an individual who is fearful of letting go of control. They have a fear of death, and the reason behind that is that they need control over everything in their lives. And this remedy can help them release that and let that go. It can help with the anxiety about passing, and it can help specifically with individuals who are not ready to go yet because they're clinging to life. And this remedy can be used in high potencies to assist with that. It also is very useful for fatigue, exhaustion, weakness, and these are all common experiences that happen during the death and dying process.
Mhm.
That would be one to mention. Um, there are a variety of remedies that can be used for pain.
Okay.
And the two that come most to mind, if you're going to remember any, are the tarantulas.
Oh, interesting.
That is Tarantula hispanica and Tarantula cubensis are the two tarantulas. And these two remedies first often work when our arsenicum stops working or doesn't work well. So
Mm.
they're a good follow-up remedy. And they more specifically help with the pain and the agony during the dying process. They can really calm someone down. In particular, they help with tremendous restlessness, just like arsenicum, but even more so with tarantula. So those are great pain remedies to consider. Other remedies to consider would be perhaps you've heard of magnesium phosphoricum. It's a
Mhm.
cell salt, magphos. And this is a remedy that has tremendous sensitivity to pain, particularly nerve pain or neuralgic pain. Plumbum iodatum is another remedy that's used a lot. Aurum metallicum for pain, particularly in the head. And then there are specific remedies that help with different areas of the body for pain that are commonly used during death and dying. And then there are remedies for nausea, like
Mhm.
balsamica or chelidonium or ipecac. There are remedies for weakness and collapse, like antimonium tartaricum, senega, soleninum, carbovegetabilis. Remedies for grief, like Ignatia amara,
Mhm.
Oculus indica, ambergris, phosphoric acid. One of the things I want to say about Ignatia is that sometimes people think that Ignatia is the only remedy for grief. And there are actually so many more good remedies for grief. It happens that Ignatia is one of our leading remedies for grief, but all of these other remedies can be really useful as well.
Right.
So that just gives you a sense of some of the more common remedies.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And Todd, how does it look like? Like, do you have a family homeopath that you bring into the situation when someone is in that phase? And is it helpful if that homeopath already knew you before?
Yes. One of the beauties of homeopathic practice is that more than any, that the patient really gets to know their practitioner on a very deep level and vice versa.
Hmm.
They establish a very close bond. My patients over the years told me that they had been to see many psychiatrists, but no one had ever really understood them as deeply as I had as a homeopathic practitioner. And so, starting with your homeopathic practitioner can be the place to go. One of the challenges is that not all homeopathic practitioners are comfortable
Hmm.
doing this kind of work and this kind of care. And so sometimes they will refer you to someone else that does this kind of work.
I see.
And it does take a lot of time. One of the things that happens during this time of life is that remedies often change very quickly.
Oh, really?
And yes, much more frequently than when you're in a more healthy state. Your
Gotcha.
vital force is weak. And
Hmm.
so it doesn't take much for the remedy pattern to shift. And so it may take just a few days and then you need to go on to another remedy. So you don't follow up in a month or 6 weeks or 2 months, which is typical homeopathic practice. You may need to follow up in a week or in a couple of days or whatever, and
Hmm.
then reassess the case. The
And
other thing that I found really helpful over the years was home visits. And so I did a lot of home visits for patients who were going through this because I really learned a lot about what the patient was going through, and it made it easier to help with the family.
And because you kind of go in and you understand the dynamic, the rhythm, how everyone's doing. And just to clarify, just in case someone is very new to homeopathy, these remedies are not hastening death. They're not like can you explain what we're really talking about is not speeding up the process, it's improving it? I know
Yeah.
it's weird. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe just to say a few things about what are the goals of end of
Yeah. Oh,
life
yes, there
care.
we go.
So to provide comfort first and foremost for the patient and their family and their system. What you can see is also that it can prolong the quality of life. So I've had quite a few patients over the years who were in hospice.
Hmm.
Typically, to be in hospice, you are given less than 6 months to live kind of diagnosis. And many patients that I treated who were in hospice went on to live for a year, 2 years, even 3 years after starting homeopathic treatment. The goal was still not cure, it was palliation, but I was able to prolong their quality of life. And they were able to maintain that quality right up until the moment they died. So that's the third thing is less pain, less suffering. And also you can, if you're effective as a homeopathic practitioner, you can reduce the conventional medication. What happens a lot in conventional hospice practice is that they load people up with all sorts of narcotics. And so when they go through the dying process, they're mostly unconscious.
Hmm.
So, one of the goals for me as a homeopathic practitioner was to reduce medication and make the dying process more conscious for them. And I had a lot of success in doing that. So anyway, those are some of the goals.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really beautiful and it feels I mean, it's just always going to be so different from conventional drugs and conventional medicine because what drug gives you comfort? They just sedate you. They just sedate you and numb you, which I think can, and a lot of those drugs can cause more anxiety. I mean, your liver's already going to get, toxic from all those medications. And I know a lot, I've read about your liver really can affect your emotions and how healthy it is and everything. And I love what you said, making the dying process more conscious because it's hard to see someone acting weird or not themselves. Um, I remember watching a film once. It was a very sad film, and I did not know what I was getting into when I watched it. But it was one of those things I was like, I don't know if I would have watched that again because it was really quite sad. But it was a woman who was dying of cancer, and ultimately she does pass. But, she became very strange and completely weird, erratic behavior. They had to take the kids out of the house, and I was kind of doing research, like, why did that happen? It was kind of a true story. And I was like, why did that happen to her? Why did she act so different? And then of course it was, well, because she was probably on a lot of medications and those affect your mental state. And it sure doesn't seem like the best way to go, but you don't want them to be suffering and in pain, which is why you mentioned what was it? Magfos. Was it Magfos?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Magfos for that nerve pain and so I think that, yeah, I think that's really, really interesting. And I am critical of pharmaceutical drugs. And, their approach is very against the self, and we know I hear that term dying with dignity. And I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
yeah. How about actually
Hmm.
looking at that? Yeah. So
Yeah.
good. Great.
I think the other thing that does happen sometimes is that as people approach that border, they begin to have experience on the other side.
Mm,
And they can look like they're crazy or confused when they're actually talking to a departed loved one, because the border between life and death begins to ease at that point. And so there's
And
back and forth. And just like also for spouses, it's really common after someone dies that they have experiences of their loved one on the other side.
mhm.
So helping normalize this experience is also really valuable for the family so they know that their loved one isn't crazy. This is just that, their experience of the
Mhm.
pain process, and that can be really valuable.
It's interesting how like things like birth, death, disease, they can break down all of those little polite boundaries that we have in our world and how it kind of forces you to really look at, I don't know, the lifeness of life, the reality, the very, there's no more polite conversations. There's no more, modesty a lot of times. There's all these things that we prefer to live in just kind of go away. And I think you're right, when as the border between life and the other side thins, you start seeing that. Um, yeah. So I think that's very interesting for sure.
There's someone that wrote, just to speak to your point, through the process of death, there is greater openness to the possibilities of life.
Hmm.
And it's at those, as much as we don't like those transitions, you said that at the
Oh,
beginning,
I hate transitions, no
they
matter what it
also
is. Hmm.
they also provide incredible opportunities for us to grow,
Like what?
to let go of a lot of these emotions and thoughts. So often, as I said in my practice, people would go for years and years, and this hatred or anger or guilt or whatever would fester. And then they get to the dying process and they're finally ready to let it go. There's an opportunity during these transitions to get to greater love,
Hmm.
move beyond the emotions and thoughts and move into a place of love.
Well, like I'm thinking about this. Okay, let's say there's some unresolved forgiveness that needs to happen between two people. That I'm sure that has happened many times. And if your person who is passing that you need to forgive or they need to forgive you is not well, they're not themselves, they're not thinking straight, they're medicated to the wazoo, it interrupts this opportunity that could be there had they had the resources and the tools that homeopathy provides to be themselves and to open up that forgiveness.
It's so true.
And and so that's just one example that I'm thinking of. And I find forgiveness is this universal thing. It doesn't belong to any one religion. It doesn't belong to any one belief system. It's this universal thing that the more people participate in it, the healthier they are, and really the healthier our world gets. But how many people have to carry whatever it is throughout their whole lives because that death process, that opportunity wasn't there. And obviously some people die in very sudden ways. Even recently we heard about the Charlie Kirk stuff in the news. Obviously death can come very swiftly for some people, but when it does not, I think what's so beautiful and complete about homeopathy is that it always takes you the better path. It always, no matter what option it is, if you have an option between drugs and homeopathy, if you can find the right remedy, if you can get the right homeopathic care, homeopathy always takes you down the better path. And that's what's so
Yes,
beautiful.
because for me, homeopathy allows us to become more who we truly are.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
right.
not our disease, not our stuckness, but our freedom, our health. And it allows us to embrace a better version of ourselves, to use pop psychology.
Oh, okay, there you go. I didn't know that was what's pop psychology? Like dad psychology?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I was like, I never heard of that one. Okay. I'm like, I thought that was pretty universal, but that's right. And so, I remember, here's another thing. I remember when, I have not experienced a lot of death in my life. It's actually been in the last 5 years that I've seen and witnessed people close to me that have passed away. And up until then, I remember thinking like, man, I'm like well into my 30s and no one close to me has ever passed away. And then here I am. But one of the things that my husband's grandmother, that would have been the first kind of experience I had with death, although I didn't know her very well. I'd only been married for a couple of years. We did live in her basement for a while, and my interaction with her was basically me turning down the air conditioning and her turning it up, and that we would play this little game. But I remember when she was in her process of passing away, and she had uterine cancer. It was a slow process, but it was swift enough. It didn't drag out forever. And I remember before I went in to visit her, my sister-in-law pulled me aside. Do not tell her, do not let her know that she's under hospice care right now, because that's going to freak her out. Because to her, she'd seen the news that hospice comes in and they basically kill you quicker because they want to cash their check in and go on to the next person, which is probably true. I mean, some of these urban legends are founded on truth. And so, what would be really cool is if homeopathy spread far and wide enough that these caregivers actually had homeopathy at their disposal. So, how open are they to using homeopathy in their work?
One of the things I love about end of life care is that most hospice workers recognize that any treatment modality is fine as long as it brings comfort. And so they're much less strict about the boundaries between conventional medicine and alternative medicine, I find, at this time of life.
Hmm.
And so many hospice workers um, were embraced what I was doing or got very interested. Some even chose later to study homeopathy. In our school, we had quite a few students that got excited about it because of their experience and seeing what homeopathy could do and wanted to bring that level of care to their patients for the future and pass it on. So there's a lot more openness at that time of life, I find, which is one of the reasons that it's very rewarding to work in this kind of way.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
I also remember going back to your point, a case in my residency where a woman had cancer and she'd had it severe cancer for 14 years. And her family refused to tell her that she had the cancer.
Really?
Yes, that's kind of what you were talking about until a medical student mentioned it to her. And she didn't know, the patient didn't know. And she died within 2 or 3 weeks of being told that. So it speaks to awareness and um, acceptance. Um,
So do
what
you think it was good that they hid it from her or bad?
I don't know. You could argue either way.
Yeah,
Uh,
you could, because on the one hand, it's like, well, you got 14 years, girlfriend. And then on the other hand, if she was really not doing well, but because she was seeing a medical student, so clearly she was getting some sort of care. And so maybe it was good in the end because she went swiftly, but that power of suggestion is,
it is very strong. Yes, it's the old adage in medicine: if you don't take a temperature, you can't find a fever.
mm, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of times when I'm teaching moms is to overcome their knowledge and the worst case scenario and all of that, because that's heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, let's talk about palliation in just a minute
I,
here.
you might ask me to remind you about
Yeah.
that, and he's waiting.
Okay, great. So we'll go ahead and take a break. Go ahead and turn off your camera, Todd, and mute yourself. And Brad, I'll bring you on in just a moment here. Let me just kind of bring up my little slides here. Um, Let me share my screen here. We're talking to Todd Rowe. He is a licensed psychiatrist and homeopathic physician, and we are talking about emotional wellness and homeopathy. That's kind of how we tricked you to coming because we didn't want to say, I don't know if we didn't want to, but we just thought that was the best title. But then I'm like, wait a second, this is kind of specifically about end of life care. But we got you here, and I hope you're interested and I hope you're enjoying it because it's not the kind of conversation that is necessarily the most fun and pleasant one to have, but I think it's profound and I think it should be talked about a lot more. And I think this just really shows the span of homeopathy. Can homeopathy help with insert this blank? It can. So, real quick, just to review, we are in our pledge drive for Americans for Homeopathy Choice. Our goal is to get to 45,000. It would mean a heck of a lot to us if you could please donate to us during our pledge drive and help us reach this goal. I'm hoping to get today at least to the halfway point. Hump Day is Wednesday, and so hoping that we can get to, okay, what's half? That would be 22 and a half, right? So if we could just get a little bit more, that would mean a ton to us. So thank you so much. And just remember, we're going to be doing a drawing today from someone who donated to us. And so we'll be giving away Sue Meyer's really awesome book, Homeopathy for Mommies Beyond Acute Care. So excited to do that. And then just remember, one of the easiest ways to donate is to join our Bear Pack. Actually, when you join our Bear Pack, you're donating $25 or more a month. And so what we do is we just multiply that by 12, and that's how we pop it into our thermometer. We think, okay, well, hopefully they'll stay with us for longer than a year, but at least a year. And so we'll pop that into our thermometer. So we're so thankful for all that you guys are doing. And remember, it's not just financial donations that we're needing. We would love to get donations of your time. And so consider joining our homeopathy action team because this is open right now at homeopathychoice.org/homeopathy-action-team. And we will train you on how to talk to your members of Congress. We have some really exciting things coming up that we hope to announce very soon. And so, yeah, so please do go ahead and consider joining. But yes, absolutely, we hope you can donate to us. So without further ado, let me bring you one of our grassroots team members. His name is Brad. And Brad, I need to tell you a little confession. Go ahead and start your camera, Brad. Um, I refer to you as the golden retriever husband. Did Tiffany tell you this?
She did. I don't know if that's good or bad.
It's very good. It's a great thing. You're just you're very energetic and you're so into what because Tiffany is our Utah State captain, right? And you're like, I'll help too. So this is like a husband and wife team helping out in Utah.
Well, we love homeopathy and we love the effort that's being given. We love working with Ms. Brown. She's awesome.
Well, thank you.
Uh,
Well, thank you. And tell me, so what does when you're advocating for homeopathy choice, what does it look like for you? Because I think a lot of people are scared to join the homeopathy action team, and we're trying to make this more accessible to them.
so the really nice thing about about the action team is that all the training is provided. We don't have to come up with things to say. We don't have to come up with different types of emails and things. Those things are provided, and then we can adjust them according to the relationship that we have with a member of Congress or in my case, a member of the U.S. Senate. It's not hard to get started. The training is fantastic, and you can go through it kind of self-paced, although getting through it is encouraged, but it is self-paced. What I've found though is when we speak up and we do it in the right ways, our politicians will listen to us. Volunteering shows that we care enough about homeopathy to actually speak out. If we don't speak out, they have 1,000 other people trying to get their time and trying to get their interest. And so it's just super important that we take an opportunity and speak up to them. They need the other thing I was going to say is it's important that we understand our personal stories and share those things with them. I think when they understand that, in my case, for example, homeopathy has helped with with hay fever, with allergies that I'd had forever. And now I haven't really experienced those things in 3 or 4 years. What really took off for me was I went to a dentist and a kind of a naturopathic dentist, and upon leaving, instead of giving me narcotics, he gave me homeopathy. And I really didn't have to have pain medicine after that. So when we're talking about narcotics and these sort of things in end of life care, it works for those of us that aren't in that state also, and can avoid much of the pain relievers and things like that that we take now. So volunteering is just impactful. It makes you feel good. With the scripts and things provided by Paola's organization, anybody can really do this. It's not hard. Paula, you are muted.
Thank you.
You
So
bet.
I was just saying you hit the nail on the head when you said that these offices are so overwhelmed. I was talking to Kathy, one of the gals that went with me to DC last week. Actually, I was with Tiffany as well, your wife, but she was saying how she was talking to a staffer because she had just ran into someone that was there meeting with offices just like Kathy was. And this was like the automotive mechanics group, and they were needing something passed for like automotive, and she was like, "Wow." Like it just shows you the breadth, the wide span of issues that these offices are having to deal with, what they're having to kind of manage and kind of juggle. And, definitely they have staffers that are assigned to different topics. So you're not going to have like the health staffer handle the automotive mechanics issue, but you really see how important it is to have someone like you, Brad, showing up, saying hi, and doing your part. So I
Oh,
think,
yeah, I totally agree. I think volunteerism. I still remember we showed up at an event here in Utah. No, it's been a couple of years ago, and there were many people that showed up there just to be in support of the homeopathic community.
that's
And I
beautiful.
remember one of our at that time he was a state representative, was really kind of taken aback and invited everybody in the room, because we had a great showing, and that's powerful for these guys. It's powerful because we are their constituents, and when we show that it's important, they will listen to us.
Hmm. That's right. That's exactly right. And it can be discouraging. You're like, oh, my representative's not responding to me. It's not doing, but I promise you, the staffers, that's where the magic happens. The staffers are these young 20 nothing year old kids that you are trying to work with and help understand our issue. And so sometimes it really has little to do with their member of Congress. So that's the exciting part. So great. Well, anything else you want to add before we kind of wrap up here?
I just want to add one more thing about the Bear Pack. Donations fuel the advocacy. They fuel what we do. Legal helps, running campaigns, all those sorts of things cost money. And so I don't know of anyone out there that can't forego, I hate to use this because we're in a healthy environment, but can't forego a couple of Happy Meals a month.
Yeah.
And that's really all it takes. I used
How
to,
dare you use Happy Meals as an example, Brad? Just kidding.
well, the healthy ones, the
Yeah,
snack wrap,
the
yeah, the wrap.
smoothies, a couple smoothies a month.
But this really is, you know, um, minimal to be able to get involved, and it just comes out and you don't even notice it. And so I would highly say if volunteer your time, but we would also love to have that $25 a month, just because it helps out so much for everybody. Anyway, that's my 2 cents, and I
Listen, guys,
appreciate.
I even donate to Homeopathy Choice. And you, Brad, you and your wife are both Bear Pack members. I'm a member of the Bear Pack. And so, we're all doing all that we can because we love this medicine so much. So that means a lot. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. And you're welcome, Brad, to stay in the Zoom room if you want and kind of finish the discussion. If you got a skedaddle, that's fine too. So no worries.
I'll jump over to the other and watch the rest, but I
Okay.
appreciate Todd being here.
Yes.
This is a great opportunity to hear from the experts. So,
Yes, absolutely. And he's great too. So, actually, I'm going to just kind of share my screen real quick and and finish up some comments here. So tomorrow we're going to be talking to Sue Meyer, you guys. So I hope you guys will come back before I get back to Todd, to my interview with Todd. We're going to be talking to Sue Meyer. Miranda Castro is giving 12% off for anyone who donates. You will be contacted with the coupon code if you donate. So we thank that. And then to win this book, I think I need to clarify. Yes, if you donate, you are entered to win, but also they're leaving instructions. My team is leaving instructions in the comments of wherever you're watching. And so you can definitely win this if you're just here, just showing up. So invite your friends and everyone. And so I do have our winner already. No, it's not there yet. Okay, they're going to pop the name into my slides here in just a minute. So I'll do that at the end. But Todd, go ahead and turn on your camera. Let's finish our discussion on this important discussion on end of life care. So what is palliative care? What does that mean?
So traditionally, homeopathy is about cure. It's one of the differences in conventional medicine, where your goal is management. As a psychiatrist, I use medication to manage depression and bipolar illness and anxiety, but usually not curing. But with classical homeopathy, the goal is cure. What happens at the end of life is that the vital force becomes so weak that it's no longer able to mount a curative response treatment. And so at that point, a homeopathic practitioner switches their strategy from curative approach to a palliative approach.
Okay.
And this is what palliation is. It concentrates on reducing the severity of the disease symptoms or slowing the disease's progress rather than providing a cure.
Interesting. And so the idea is, yeah, it's softening essentially. It kind of goes right back to all the goals that you stated at the beginning of our session. That's right.
Yes. And one of the things I loved about what you said is that in that softening process, it can smooth the transition. Because transitions are not just for you, Paula, for all of us are hard. And I think one of the gifts that homeopathy brings to the table is that whatever the life transition you're working through, homeopathy can have a role in smoothing that transition.
That's right. So tell me, what are kind of the most common symptoms of that are coming up during an end of life care situation? So we've talked about a lot of them. I think like anxiety was one of them, pain was one of them. Are there any others we haven't touched on yet?
Breathing is a big one, and often anxiety is coupled with difficulty breathing.
Well, I wonder why.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so there are remedies that can support the breathing process, like antimonium tartaricum is particularly useful for Cheyne-Stokes breathing, which is a type of breathing that is often experienced at the end of life. It's also referred to as a death rattle when mucus gets in your lungs and you can't cough it up and you hear this rattle in the person's lungs, kind of thing. And so there are homeopathic remedies that can assist with that and help to alleviate those specific symptoms. So lungs. The other one that's very common I have found is, in addition to pain, is nausea and vomiting. I've seen that a lot. And there are a variety of remedies, as I talked about, that can be used for that. And then the one that you brought forward is delirium, confusion during the end of life, where someone starts hallucinating or gets paranoid or starts experiencing reality in a way that's not consistent with what others experience around them. And there are a variety of remedies that can assist with that as well.
Yeah, that's really nice. That's really beautiful. And it's sad, but it's beautiful, to kind of be able to help them with that. I would think that, there's this conscious part of you that's like, I'm dying. And we've, worked hard to avoid that most of our life. And so that's very upsetting, and stressful. But I think that beautiful piece is certainly something to aspire for. So, how can someone listening, actually, we had a really interesting comment that I wanted to read to you that someone made. People in the comments are really enjoying this, by the way.
Okay.
So, someone said here, when my dad was nearing his passing, my mom thought his cancer had gone to his brain because he talked about seeing people on the ceiling and he talked about going on a trip she didn't understand. This person told her to agree with him and let him know that he would be okay. And then it sounds like she did, and he passed shortly thereafter. So I thought that was really interesting, just not suppressing and just kind of going with it and supporting it.
Yes, very much. One of the skills that I was taught as a psychiatrist is not to challenge a patient in their belief system or what their experience is.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone experiences things differently, but to go with it. I think that's a beautiful description, and to honor their experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that really helps them calm down.
Right.
When you challenge it or say that's not real or whatever, then they start having problems, that kind of thing.
I see. And I've even seen that in cases of dementia and things like that. There's to kind of go with it. Okay, well, let's do this next, or kind of trying to redirect them instead of just challenging them. Um, okay, and then what about like are are the same remedies useful in the beginning of life? I was thinking about vomiting because vomiting, I remember a woman was having a baby. And oh, she was just vomiting and vomiting. And I was like, she does not need to be delivering a baby right now and feeling so sick. And it wasn't that she had an illness, it's just that this is how her body was reacting to the delivery. So I wonder if some of these remedies overlap,
They do.
at the beginning of life. Yeah.
They do. And that's one of the beautiful things about life for me is that the beginning and ending are actually mirrors of each other. And the remedies that are useful for the beginning and the end are the same. It's just that the flow of energy is in an opposite direction,
Hmm.
into embracing life or accepting life or celebrating life, you know, versus letting go and moving on. But it's the same issues, the same problems that come up. And so the same remedies that can be used.
Yeah. Here's another comment that just came through. I need to sneeze though. Excuse me. Um, Someone just wrote here, I used antimonium tart for my 102-year-old father, and it was amazing. I was able to reduce and cancel all the conventional or allopathic medications he was given the last few days. And antimonium tart is a big one with baby births, especially water births. If they get a little
Yes.
something in their chest, they use that.
Yes.
That just is so interesting how it mirrors
Yes.
and really, good medicine should be gentle in all stages of life, not just the end. All right, Todd.
Ammonium tartaricum is not only useful for the breathing issues, but it also can help with the anxiety,
Hmm.
fearfulness, just like arsenicum album
Right,
can. And so it can be used for that too.
right. That's right. Okay, Todd. So, what happens after we die? Is that part of your presentation? Do you have an
No,
answer?
I'm not. That's a toe I'm not going to put into the water. Um,
Okay.
I don't have any remedies for that.
You don't have the answer. It's not in the Materia Medica somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. Gonna have to find your own answers.
That's right.
But I do find that there are a lot of my patients and their families who have experiences of a loved one after they pass.
Hmm.
And this is actually uh, reassuring for them. I hear this over and over again that they were worried how they were doing or how they were coming along or what happened to them. And they feel this intense love in their heart after these experiences. Often it can come in a variety of ways, but most often I have found through dreams. And one of the things I encourage uh, people who are grieving, if they can do, is not to take sleeping medication, because sleeping medication can reduce the dreams and dream recall. And
Mm,
one of the ways that is so helpful to work through grief is in our dream states and
mm.
through our dreams, and honoring our dreams and remembering our dreams is a way of working through grief. And so um, I found that to be really valuable.
I love that. Well, I will close with just saying I encourage you to make peace with that question about what happens to you after you die. Where do you go? And you know, f- I think we're all heading in that direction. My son, oh my gosh, my son once was like teasing my daughter. They were little, and he was just like, "Did you know that every human only has a certain number of breaths? And if you breathe faster, you're running out of those breaths faster." And then he started, and she's like, "No, stop!" He's just being mean to her. But it's just even that little game, that little joke to a kid, they are aware of their mortality and that we're all very mortal. And I do encourage everyone listening, to make peace with that question about where do we go and what
Yes.
happens next. I know there's a lot of different faiths, there's a lot of different belief systems. For me, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, and that gives me great peace and great love. And I think that word about love is really at the core of a lot of the answers. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask the tough questions and to dream the big dreams and to go through the hard thing. I've heard it said once before that like figuring these things out are like we think like going through emotional healing or, getting through trauma is like this puppies and rainbows and this happy thing. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And sometimes you might feel like you've made peace with death or peace with something that is, with what happens next. And then you get a little older and you find that you need to make peace with it again. It's this kind of ongoing process. But I
There are
do.
stages to grief that you work through, and
Yes.
there's always another stage to
Yep.
grief. There's always another step to letting go.
There is, and there's always another step to get to peace.
Yes, I also wanted to add that in the Middle Ages, um, there many people kept a skull on their kitchen table, and it was called a momentum mori. And the Latin translation is reminder of death.
Mm,
And we've been talking about it today. The more aware you are of death, the more alive you can be. The more afraid you are, the more that you
mm.
deny it, the less that you are alive. And so I think this talk today is really important, but just awareness and honoring this phase of life is really important.
Yeah, that's right. I remember my grandfather, he's passed now, bless his heart, and he wouldn't do his will. He would not do his will because he thought if he did his will, that meant he's going to die and he's going to somehow speed up that process. But really it's a manifestation of a deeper fear that he had about dying and about going, and so he never did his will, and they kids had to figure it out on their own, which doesn't sound particularly fun, but I think you're right. I think, again, encourage everyone listening to make peace with this because it's going to come to us all. We only have a certain number of breaths before we're out. And not really, but and and find that peace and that joy and you'll know because like I just said, my faith has been a huge part of bringing me great joy and peace through trials and tribulation, and I hope it will be strong enough at the very end that I won't be too panicked, just a little bit. So anyways, all right. Well, very good, Todd. Thank you. Any final thoughts, or are we good?
I think we're good. I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you, Paula, for all you do in supporting homeopathy. And I'm a big fan of yours too.
Well, the feeling is mutual, so thank you so much. Well, I'll go ahead and finish up here, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. I think Michelle has updated the final slide. And she, let's see here. Who is our winner? Yes, we do. John Tex, you have, I hope I said that right. You have won Homeopathy for Mommies Beyond Acute Care. Thank you for attending this show, for being here. I hope, I hope you donated too. That would be great. But if not, we still love you. And again, our goal is to get to 45,000. I'm really hoping that tomorrow we would have gotten past the hump day. So please share this with people, invite people to donate. We're doing really important work for homeopathy with what FDA has been doing. And so we are really hoping to, make it there in the end. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We'll talk to you later. Bye, everyone.